And as I knocked on the door and I said, "Hello, are you okay? Ambulance service." The patient jumped out and stabbed me twice in the chest. Once here with a small knife and once right here with an 8-inch blade. My name's Deena Owen. I am a paramedic halo for West Midlands Ambulance Service, and I've been in the trust just under 10 years. And today I'm doing LADbible's Honesty Box. What's the worst bodily fluid to deal with? For me, snot. Hate snot. Hate it. I can cope with poo, sick, blood, everything. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. Really doesn't bother me. I will often go to somebody and who is in a mess and then go and eat my dinner. It really doesn't bother me. Snot. Please, please. No, here's a tissue. Hate snot.
You're kidding.
Hate it.
Top 3, if I said poo, blood and snot, where blood and poo come into it?
Blood way at the bottom. Blood is way at the bottom. Poo, it doesn't bother me because if they are covered, we can cover up. So poo, unless it's got a strange smell, or if it's got blood mixed in with it, that can have quite a strong smell. But snot, by far, I don't know what it is. It's stringy. No.
Thank you, Deena.
Our ambulance is called for dead bodies. Yes. We will go and confirm the death with something called a 3-lead ECG strip, which confirms that there's no activity in the heart. So yes, we do get called to dead bodies. Sometimes we get called and people don't know. They're unsure if the person is dead, so we'll again go out to check. Very often we find people that are dead that have been there for a while, and we have to go out and confirm that under certain criteria, unless it falls under role criteria, which is things like a hemicorporectomy, where people are chopped in half, decapitation, so head off, incineration, so more than 95% burns. There's quite a few categories where we don't have to then do certain paperwork or certain checks. It just falls under that criteria, role criteria. What's a common cause of injury that you see which others might not expect? Okay. I will never, ever sing too much in the shower. Never. Because you would not believe the amount of people that slip in the shower, fall over, put a hip out, and then we come in. And I would never want my crewmates to see me in that position in the shower. It's very slippy. Always use a mat. How does it feel to save a life? It's a conflicting question. Very good when it's the right time. If there is no do not resuscitate form, that can be quite difficult. So when people are end of life, which means they can be very elderly, very frail, very sick, they have a long-term illness that's incurable, that's quite a difficult case, and very often we will liaise with other teams such as GPs or their consultants on the decision around that. We never make the decision solely, but younger people or that kind of job definitely feels good to save a life, especially when you see the family after. We very often take a step back when we get to hospital and you see the doctors going and talking to the family. That, I don't care who you are, you will always have that lump, always, when it happens. So yeah, that is a very good feeling. Do you ever use the siren or blue lights for something else? No. I think people think we do. I think they think that we blue light the siren to McDonald's. And I think as an ambulance service, we probably say, police probably blue lighting to get their donuts, or they probably moan about us blue lighting to get McDonald's, or, you know, but no, we wouldn't. We would get into trouble. We're not allowed to do that.
Do you listen to your own music in the ambulance?
Yeah, we do. We have radio stations. Most people put things like History or Heart on, and we'll plug our phones in. I actually have a video of me singing beautifully to a song with an old crewmate. Voice of an angel. Why are there always ambulances hanging around outside A&E? We're not just hanging around. So my job now is I work predominantly in hospitals, which is to manage the delays. So I work as something called a HALO, which is a hospital ambulance liaison officer. And part of my job is to manage those delays. So when the ambulance service will put things in place where we have alternative pathways, so we can access district nursing, we can access GPs, we can refer back to 111. We don't automatically take everybody to hospital, but when we do go to A&E, often, not always, sometimes we can offload straight away, but sometimes the demand is so extensive. If we have 10 beds available and 30 ambulances at A&E, that's where the delays come from. And we take patients in based on priority. I think everybody would agree with that if you were a Category 1 call, a genuine Category 1 call, and you needed to go in first, I think we'd all let that person go in first if we're honest with ourselves. How often are ambulances cleaned? So they're cleaned after every patient. Very often we see people in their houses, so they don't come on the ambulance, so we wouldn't need to. But every time a patient comes on the ambulance or sits on the stretcher or touches any of the equipment is then cleaned down with Clinell wipes, which are like disinfectant wipes. If the ambulance has got particularly messy, we can take it for a deep clean. We do like a rolling restock, so the trucks come in, the day shift finishes, the night shift will jump on, we can clean the ambulance down like externally, and we'll mop the inside of the ambulance as well to get it all cleaned, the front and back. Have you ever been assaulted by a patient? I have been assaulted numerous times. I've been assaulted, I think in total, 8 or 9 times, ranging from being spat at, shouted at, kicked, bitten, punched. I attended a welfare call with my crewmate. It was a Monday afternoon, and we went to a concern for welfare, was called in by the patient's mum. And I was at the front, and as I knocked on the door and I said, "Hello, are you okay? Ambulance service." The patient jumped out and stabbed me twice in the chest. Once here with a small knife and once right here with an 8-inch blade. And I remember I thought I'd been punched because you don't feel being stabbed. I just felt pressure and I thought, oh, wow, he's just shoved me or punched me out of the way. And then I remember thinking my t-shirt is really like wet. Why is it all of a sudden, has he thrown something at me? Because it happened so fast, and I got gloves on, and as I started to pat myself down, I saw blood, and then that's when I realised I had a large hole in my chest. And I shouted, "I've been stabbed." And my crewmate said, "Me too." And I just remember thinking at that point, what do we do? What do we do? We both ran into I first ran into the garden, my crewmate came after me, and I collapsed. The hole in my chest, it was about that big. I couldn't breathe. And I said to my crewmate, "We are going to die here. We're going to die. There's no way anybody's going to get to us in time." So I open channeled it. I broadcast it because I thought maybe this is the only way we're going to get heard, and I made that decision, and I said, "Please help him." I thought it was pointless, us both dying, so I just said, please help him, and that was the last radio comms I had. And then I just remember my boss at the time flying through the garden, and another senior officer, and they piled on us, Richard, and I remember him packing my chest, and Richard is a friend as well, a really good friend, and I said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I felt like it was my fault." And then they got us on the ambulance, and they scanned my chest, and they said that I'd got something called a pneumothorax, which was my lung had collapsed. And then they started to scan me for something called a tamponade, which is where the sac that your heart sits in, if that's compromised from trauma, you bleed out within minutes. And I just thought, wow, I haven't died yet, but I'm about to then. At least I've had 5 minutes to say I'm sorry to my boss. I had surgery that night. I had a clot form in my chest, so I had a pneumothorax. And it started to come up here, and I had 500 mils removed. My crewmate was discharged that afternoon with some stitches in his back. So we were both very, very lucky. Do you suffer or know paramedics who suffer from PTSD or mental health issues? I have PTSD. I have post-traumatic stress disorder from the day that I was stabbed. I actually have something called CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And that is from a series of traumatic events. And I would, hand on heart, say I don't think there's any paramedic that doesn't suffer with without any kind of traumatic stress disorder of a kind.
Does the ambulance service assist you in that?
We have really good support. We have occupational health that we can always ask for a referral to. Our doctors are often quite good. My doctor is very, very good. We have counselling services, we have charities as well, such as Task. They're very, very good. So the ambulance are very, very good. They're very, very supportive in that sense. Do patients ever try to get in touch to say thank you? Yes. We have something called a PAL service, where patients can obviously put in a thank you. They can contact the ambulance service to say thank you to the crew that came out to me. There is always negative feedback, there always will be with any kind of public service. So when you get that positive reinforcement, it's nice to know that what you did was appreciated, because it doesn't happen very often. So when you get that email coming through saying you've had this letter to say thank you, we do always have a bit of a smile. And I think I definitely keep my letters, and I put them into a little folder just to say, you know, I did do a good job. We all need that positive reinforcement. What do the different sirens mean? So we have 3 sirens. We have the normal, the best way I can describe it is by doing the sound. So we have the normal nee-naw. Then we have the faster nee-naw, nee-naw. And then we have the tritone, which is, it sounds more like a wibble. And we alternate between the 3. It's known that if you play one siren repeatedly, people don't hear it. They switch off to it because you get so used to the sound. So we alternate between the 3 sirens. You often find that if we're going to a more serious job, we will use the tritone a lot more because it has more impact. We also have a bullhorn, which is used for obviously certain situations, which is the really loud honking horn that you hear. And that's slightly off to the side of the steering wheel. And we use that in certain situations like heavy traffic or there's a danger coming up. And we need to let people know if there's something serious.
Which is your favourite siren?
Bullhorn. I love it. How do you deal with death? It depends on the situation. Often children are quite hard to deal with. That's very, very difficult. And I think people think that when we put the uniform on, we're not human anymore, we're robots. And we're not, we are human. And I'm not ashamed to say that I will cry. I've cried on lots of jobs. They've been really heartbreaking. You know, we have families at home, so it's hard to see how upset the parents get or the families get, knowing that we're going to go home to our children. You know, as colleagues, we support each other, we deal with it, and then unfortunately that next job is waiting around the corner and we have to move on. I think the public forget that. We're human, we hurt too. We get hurt, we feel hurt, and we get upset. We will do our job to the best of our ability, but sometimes we cry too. Please don't forget that. I like this one. Do paramedics and doctors get on, or is there beef? Is there beef? Brilliant. For the most part, we get on. For the most part, we have a very different skill set, and I think we often forget. They forget what our limitations are. We forget what they're capable of. So there's always sometimes a little bit of to-ing and fro-in, especially on my part. I work in hospital, so I work predominantly with doctors who will, if you know there's an issue with the paramedics, they'll come to me. I'm WMAS, I still work for the ambulance service, so I will defend the paramedics. And so there can be, I wouldn't say beef, but there can be a little bit of to and fro in there. But best question by far. Not sure the doctors would agree. Do you feel like you have to help people even off duty? Yes. Yeah, that's our job, it's our registration. Our registration applies to us as a person, not as an ambulance service. We are paramedics. We're not just ambulance drivers. We have degrees. We are medical. And I think we do automatically anyway. If somebody needs our help and we see it, we help. It's just in our blood. It's green, by the way. What 3 qualities make a good paramedic? You have to be able to think on your feet. Often you're put in scenarios or situations where you need to think quick, you need to think fast, and it needs to be a rational decision that you make. You need to be able to talk to people. Sometimes a lot of our calls are social calls. A lot of people want reassurance, so you need to be able to talk to people. The third one, you need to enjoy your job. Definitely enjoy your job, otherwise, and you need to keep a clear head, otherwise the job can become difficult. It can get quite hard at times. You need to have good colleagues around you to be able to support each other. What is the most annoying thing that other drivers do? I don't know if it's annoying. Panic, I think. When they see us, panic. They kind of swerve from one lane to the next, not really knowing which way do I go, which I understand if you've got lights and sirens behind you. Sometimes just stay. Sometimes that is just easier and we will go around you. But if 2 cars pull up right next to each other, we cannot get through that gap. Sometimes we like it staggered so that we can swerve. So I'm not somebody that gets annoyed driving, really.
You don't feel that road rage?
No, I don't. I've
Come
never
off
really.
it.
I've never really.
Be honest, it's all the honesty box.
No, I've never ever had road rage. What's the best advice for anyone who has to perform first aid? You need to stay calm. You're no good to anybody if you're panicking. Keep your head. Remember what you taught, you know it. Remember it. I know it's hard to sit back and say it now because there's been some jobs where I've gone to where I've thought, oh my God, what do I do? I've forgotten. But you know it, it's what you're taught. You will remember, and when you're in that situation, you'll know what to do. What's your breaking point? When would you refuse to help? I don't think I would. That sounds really bad. Even on the day I got stabbed, I was trying to help my crewmate to the best of my ability by instructing a bystander to get things out of the bag to help my crewmate. He was doing the same for me. And I think even if somebody was attacking us, there was an assault a few days ago in hospital and we still continued to help him even though he was spitting in our faces. There isn't a point that we refuse. I think the only time we do refuse is when somebody doesn't need our help and they say, I don't need your help. It's not a refusal, it's just that they just don't need us. That's the only time that we'll walk away.
The cabin crew went and stopped her, and then she sat back down in her seat, and then about half an hour later she was back up with another chap trying to join the Mile High Club again. But then my friend said that she went to speak to her parents because she was actually travelling with her mum and dad.